All right, Shalom Israel. First and foremost, as always, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha, Kwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return, and double honors to our apostles and elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha, Kwadash. Welcome to another sit-down lesson. I pray that this video is edifying. The title of this video is going to be called Inflation is Hitting America Hard. Now, the inspiration of this video comes from me buying a candy bar from a store. And when I bought the candy bar and I looked at the price, I realized that the price was not worth the candy bar, or the candy bar was not worth the price. And as you see on the receipt right here, I took a picture of it so you brothers could see it with your own eyes. One candy bar is $4. Okay? The name of the candy bar that I bought, it was called a Fast Break. And it was a king size one. A king size Fast Break. The candy bar was not all that big. None of that. It's the usual, regular, king size candy bar. $4. With $4, I could buy 2 loaves of bread. With $4, I can buy a whole entire container of oatmeal that would otherwise last me at least about 2 weeks and a half, depending on how much I eat. With $4, I can buy 12 rolls of toilet paper. Okay? 12 rolls. Well, you know, some places sell 4 rolls of toilet paper for $1. So, 16 rolls. I could buy 16 rolls of toilet paper with $4. With $4, I can buy a large dozen of eggs. Eggs, large, size large, dozen, and a half a container of eggs. So you see where I'm getting at, right? In the year 2000, I remember when I used to buy. This was when I was when I was in the world. When I was in the world, a king-size candy bar in the year 2000 was $1.25. I'm gonna say that again. In the year 2000, in my young teenage years, a king-size candy bar was $1.25. At some places, they were 75 cents. But not today. With $4, I could buy a whole entire box of Debbie snacks. But a king-size candy bar, $4. So it makes you wonder, because like people watch the news, right? And this is why the United States of America is known as Babylon the Great. In which when you go into the word Babylon, it goes into the Hebrew word babal, which means confusion. And where does confusion comes from? Confusion comes from deception. It comes from the truth being mixed up with lies. When your mainstream media tells you that the dollar is bouncing back, the Dow Jones is going down, when they tell you that the stock markets are rising and people are now investing in the stock market, when you hear that the value of the dollar is going up in your mainstream media, but then you turn around and you go to the grocery store and you see that one candy bar is $4, it brings confusion because you don't know who's telling the truth. The ones who's making the prices at the grocery store or the mainstream media. And you see, if Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai is not dealing with you, you're not going to know who's telling the truth. And if you're in this truth, you should know better than to believe the mainstream media. I don't even watch the mainstream media. I don't watch Fox News, Eyewitness News, none of that. Not unless what they're talking about is linked to what these third world country news stations are talking about, such as Russia Today, Associated Press, Sputnik News, End Time Headlines, thepeoplesvoice.com, etc., etc. So I went to Google and I typed in, what is inflation? So you brothers who are, especially you brothers who are new coming into Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai's ministry, can understand what inflation actually is. So what is inflation? And this is what I got from the AI overview. Inflation is the general increase in the price of goods and services across an economy over time. And this is exactly what we are witnessing here in America. Gas prices continue to rise. Food prices continue to rise. Oil prices continue to rise. The price on merchandises continue to rise. And it's all due from countries fighting to get away from the hegemony of the US dollar. When inflation happens, each unit of your money buys fewer goods and services than before. That's why the cost of living is so high. Because the truth is that the United States of America's dollar is losing its value day by day. Okay? Day by day. Who's that car doing? And that is the truth of the whole matter. The Wada Yahweh, the Wada Yahweh Shai, for allowing me to cross the street safely. Again. Okay? This is why Rent is going up every 3 months. The electric companies are charging you more for electricity because the dollar is losing its value. Gas is going up. Utilities are going up. Hell, it even costs more money to wash your clothes. At some places, they're charging you over $4 just to wash a small load. So the US dollar, slowly but surely, is being phased out of the picture. And only those who are being circumspect, who are watching, who are paying attention, okay, can see what is happening here. Ultimately, we know that it's systematically being done because the so-called elites, they ultimately want the US dollar to collapse because they want the new currency of the world to be the RFID chip, which is the MOTB, according to Revelation 13, verse 16 down to 18. So when inflation happens, each unit of your money buys fewer goods. And that's what, I remember when I was a child living with my mom, I remember every time we would go to the grocery store, we would always leave the grocery store with a cart filled with food. Now I mean from the bottom all the way up to the mountaintop. There will be so much food in the cart that it would literally look like a hill of food. A hill, Hill, a hill of food. And that much food would usually be around a little over $100 and something, like maybe $125, $150 sometimes. But it was enough food to last us a whole month. And by the time the next month came around, she already had enough food. She already had enough money to buy us more food. And the food that we would buy from the previous month, some of it, or sometimes a lot of it, would still be in the kitchen. So she would sometimes end up spending fewer money on food. Sometimes she would spend $50 on food. And she would have a cart that was more than halfway full. Nowadays, when I see people shopping at grocery stores for food, their grocery carts are less than halfway full, and the price is over $250. So let that wrap around your head for a second. So when inflation happens, each unit of your money buys fewer goods and services, such as internet, electric, water, utilities, light bill. Some have to pay a light bill. Okay, gas. It says, when inflation happens, each of your unit, it says, when inflation happens, each unit of your money buys fewer goods and services than before. This means your money loses purchasing power, and that's what we're witnessing. This is why the percentage of people paying their mortgages, especially on their houses, the people paying their mortgages on their houses is dropping below 40%. Because nowadays people are working 2 jobs just to get by. Not to live, not to breathe, just to get by. And on their off day, their off days are pretty much spent laying down, relaxing from the stress of how much they gotta work just to get by. Main causes of inflation, demand pull. People want to buy more things than businesses can make, which pushes prices up. And what do it mean by than businesses can make? It means that fewer merchandises are making it to your business. And it might be because there's particular countries where America used to get their merchandises from that's no longer shipping their merchandises to the United States of America. So that's increasing the scarcity of that particular merchandise. And when something becomes scarce, especially on the market, the price goes up on it. So it is preserved longer in the marketplace. So it's important to understand that the more scarce something is, the higher the price is going to be. Which means businesses are not getting the same amount of merchandise to sell those goods on the shelves than they used to. When you have a lot of something, you don't have to raise the price on it. You know? If you sell it for a fair price, it'll sell more because people will see that it's being sold for a fair price. But if you don't have as much as that merchandise, you're going to raise the price on it so it's preserved in the marketplace more longer. That's why extremely rare video games like Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1, and I'm talking about the game disc, all 4 game discs, Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1. Believe it or not, that game still sells for over $50 because that is one of the most genuine games for the PlayStation 1. It still sells for over $50, especially at a retro video game stop that sells older video games. You see? And the reason why the price is so high on it is because there's very scarce copies of the game. So because the game is extremely, because the world is extremely genuine, and it's, you know, highly popular, and there's a huge demand for them, but there's scarce copies for them. A game that came out in around the 1900s is still being sold for over $50. So that should give you a good idea of what I'm talking about here. So people want to buy more things than businesses can make. You see? Square Enix is not making Final Fantasy VII games anymore for the PlayStation 1. So what? Copies of Final Fantasy VII is going to be scarce, which means the prices are going to go up. Because someone out there is going to be willing to pay out over $50 just to get the copy of the game. So it says cost push. It costs companies more money to make products or pay workers. So they raise prices to cover these costs. You understand? Built-in workers ask for higher pay to afford a higher cost of living, which causes companies to raise prices even more. Oh, but there's more. Let's go to page 2 here. So I took a screenshot of both of these. And just give me a moment here. I got to open the door. The Wada Yahweh Shai, for allowing me to make it home safely and in one piece. Okay, I'm just going to hold this door real quick. Barakada Yahweh Shai. Barakatah Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. It says, built in, workers ask for higher pay to afford a higher cost of living, which causes companies to raise prices even more. Because companies are unable to pay their employees if the company is not making the sufficient enough money to pay them. And this usually leads to what? Layoffs. People end up getting laid off because the company cannot afford to pay them to keep their company running. Okay, this leads to layoffs. It leads to fewer workers, and it usually leads to the fewer workers who work there having to work more days to cover the days of the workers who got laid off. So by that time, this leads to what? Oppression. It leads to depression. Workers have to fork out more energy just to survive. You see what I mean? Okay, how it is measured. Governments track a large group of everyday items like food, gas, and rent. This group of items is called a price index, most famously the Consumer Price Index, CPI. The change in this index over a year shows the rate of inflation. Just gonna open this window a little slightly here. See, mosquitoes have been getting in here lately, biting the shit out of me. Keep that shit like that. I'm pretty sure I can. I can't do it with no one hand, which is fine. Okay. So, at this point, it's very, very safe to say that inflation is hitting Babylon the Great, aka America, very hard. Which are a sign of what? Babylon is being destroyed. Okay? Something that's being destroyed does not necessarily have to mean that it's being killed or it's somebody. It don't have to mean that somebody is being killed or whatever. The word destroy simply means to break down. When you break down the word destroy, means down or down from. Then you got the word stroy, which goes back to the Latin structere, which means build. When you struct something, it means you're putting it together. You're building it. So destroy means that you're breaking it down. And that's what the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, is doing to the United States of America. As it is written, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Take balm for her, howl for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. But you see, there is no reparations for America, aka Babylon the Great. And there is no healing for the economy, the financial system, or the government of this damn forsaken country. With that being said, I'm going to say shalom to the elect. Is on to the next one.